Yes, I'm John Craven. I'm the university's Vice-Chancellor, and we have sort of strange titles in universities, but it's the nearest thing we have to the Chief Executive, the person who's responsible for running the university, making sure we stay solvent, making sure we recruit all our students. There are 2,000 staff who help do that, and so I am, in colloquial terms, the boss of the university.
In the press there's lots of information about the university cuts that's going to be happening to the higher education area, and how is the University of Portsmouth going to be affected by these cuts?
Well, we will certainly be affected by the cuts. We've had some preliminary information about the reduction in our grant for next year compared with, let's say, 2 years ago before the cuts started, and it's difficult to be precise, but we think that the overall cuts will be somewhere between £2 and £3 million for next year. In the future, everything will depend on the outcome of the general election, and there are lots of rather threatening noises about cuts at perhaps double that level, but it is very uncertain.
And there's already been news that's going to be voluntary severances at the university. How many voluntary severances do there need to be?
Right, well, of course, to some extent that depends on the salaries that are paid to the people who go, so it's hard to put a number on it, but we spend about 2/3 of our income on staff costs, and so if we're saving 4 or 5 million for a couple of years' time, then it would be good to make salary savings of £3 or £3.5 million. 100 or so people, but that is a very variable number and not really one that I can quote confidently, because we're not looking at numbers, we're looking at the savings, and that will depend on all sorts of things.
Will that be support staff or teaching staff?
It will be both. The severance scheme, which is currently runs until the middle of March, is open to every member of staff in the university, and we expect to receive, and the early indications are that we will receive, volunteers or potential volunteers from all across the university. People obviously need to work out what it means for them, for their pension, and all those sorts of things. So a lot of that work is still being done, so it's too early to say what the pattern will be, but there will certainly be applications both from academic and support staff.
If the university didn't get as many voluntary severances as it hoped for, would you be looking to force that?
We may need to, yes. I think we would need then to look much more seriously or quickly at areas of the university which, relative to the money they bring in, cost quite a lot of money. But we always do that. That's something that universities do all the time. I have to say, I think there's at least as good a chance that we will get, if I can put it this way, more volunteers than we need to make the savings, and that would potentially give us some headroom to bring in some new staff if that's the way it worked out.
Are there any departments in particular which are being focused on for the cuts, or is it just a general across the board?
In the main, it's a general across the board thing, though we're not imposing a sort of uniform cut across the system, and as a university, as all universities do, we close courses, we change activities from time to time, and some of those will be in specific areas of the university, but I would certainly want us to retain, in general terms, the breadth of academic activity that we do. That doesn't mean every course survives forever, but it does mean that we don't dramatically reduce the range of things that we cover.